それでは時間になりましたので始めさせていただきます。Let's start with lecture 11 on global markets and funding in deep tech entrepreneurship. We have three goals today. The first is to understand the importance of global perspectives from day zero. And the second is to gain insights from global investors' perspectives, especially to learn what factors lead investors to view deep tech entrepreneurs as successful or unsuccessful cases in the global field. And the last one is to improve your business proposals through pitching and feedback. Agenda and timeline is there. In the first half, three student team will have 5 minutes speeches, followed by 10 minutes feedback from today's guests. And in the second half, we will have a lecture, panel discussion, and Q&A session featuring Mr. Nick Kuni from Nordic Ninja VC and Mr. Patrick Muller, CEO of the Co-Power Ocean. And after the announcement from the course administration, we can have a social gathering time. Unfortunately, Mr. Patrick Muller have to come back to the airport, but Mr. Nick Kuni-san can remain in the classroom in the maximum 45 minutes. So please actively engage in the social gathering. So could we start by having a brief introduction from both of you?
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Shinichi Nikuni, but just call me Shin. So I'm from Nordic Ninja VC, a venture capitalist based in Europe and investing in Nordic biotechs, like Northern European startups. And Patrick, this Co-Power is one of the recent portfolio, which is one of the most ambitious investment we made together. So happy to introduce a bit more later, but nice to meet you.
And I'm Patrick Muller, co-founder and CEO of Co-Power Ocean, a wave energy company. I will speak much more about it, but I've been running deep tech companies for my entire working life. I actually started my company out of university, just like many of you are doing now, so I can speak a bit about that tonight.
This is a timeline. For the first 5 minutes, we will have a brief presentation from Mr. Nick Kuni, a Nordic Ninja introduction and overview of the European sustainability investment market. And then for the 15 minutes from Mr. Muller, we will be shared a Co-Power journey introduction with a pitch deck. And then we will have a 20 minutes panel discussion and then a Q&A session for the 10 minutes. And Mr. Murray's slide is only for the projection. So let's start from Mr. Nikuni's presentation.
Thank you, and thank you for the teams that presented. And it was, to be very honest, more than I expected. So thank you for the great quality and within the short time frame that you did excellent pitch. Thank you so much. And let me also do like a 5-minute pitch as a ninja. So we are kind of, oh, sorry. Okay, this is tricky. Yeah. We are Japanese VC based in Europe and one of the largest Japanese VC, I would say, in Europe in terms of from Japanese VC. Then we invest mainly in Northern European countries, starting obviously Nordic, Baltics, and some like UK, other countries. We have 2 funds under asset management. We have roughly 250 million euro altogether as a fund. And we mainly invest in the stage called Series A, which is the company start commercialization of the product, which sometimes like a few years after the inception, but sometimes it's more than 10 years after the inception. It depends on the case and it depends on the industry. And we are the team of the 10 people, quite small number. Then the 4 Japanese and the 6 European, or quite international team. So we are, in this sense, very unique. But we are headquartered in headquartered in London and Stockholm, and we decide all the investment decisions locally in Europe. Then this is kind of some like a quote from our portfolio. So we are basically helping the companies to go globally, but including the Japan. But Japan is a kind of bonus. If there's a thing, there's a timing, or there's like a strategy, there's a fit to the Japanese market, Japanese potential customers, we can open almost any kind of doors. But if it doesn't, so then it's more like a founder's choice, whether they think that Japanese market is important or not. But for some companies, we really helped to open like a new markets, new customers to the Japan. So it's like a vice versa for like you start the company here, then go global. Maybe the America first, but maybe it can be like Europe next, and then we could be help in the locally over there. Then we are basically backed by many different networks. So we mainly quite close to like a Skype founders. And Skype is almost gone, unfortunately, but the Skype is a kind of product of the Nordic Baltics. They say like a Swedish business side design, like the Danish design kind of thing. Then the engineering more like from Estonia. So then we have quite good network for Skype founders, ex-founders, and there's an ecosystem developed from Skype, and also Sport Farm from Sweden. Those kind of unicorn, decacorn cases helped to create a new startup ecosystem in the Nordics, and which actually each Nordic countries are quite small, but all together they are really united, integrated. But still, altogether the size of the economies are almost like a greater Tokyo in terms of population, in terms of GDP. So that is one of the reasons I think they are really international, like globally minded from day one, because it's the only way you can really be big. And then that's why maybe the general founders try to address the globally important and problem as a whole society. Then also this is kind of interesting part of the Nordic Ninja. So we are backed by many Japanese corporate as a kind of strategic partner for us. So in a sense, we can leverage those corporate expertise. As a venture capitalist, I'd like to say I know everything, but which is not true at all. So I'm not a full expert of every single industry. That's why, but we are lucky that we have a quite good access to the executives, but also the engineering capability of those companies. That's how we can also help the founders, but also we can in evaluating the companies. This kind of expertise network is also helping us to select the right team at the right timing. Maybe there's two more slides. So this is kind of European ecosystem, a bit smaller chart, but if you search the state of the European tech, it's a joint product of the Atomico, one of the top tier VC, European VC based in London, and also Deep Deal Room, one of the data sources in Europe. And the market really grows. So 10 years ago, let's say it's a small market, maybe 10 billion share capital invested a year as a whole Europe. But it's, so especially in the peak, there's 100 billion invested in the European tech. And of course, there's a quite kind of not a recession, but a downturn. But still, if you see the total 10 years, it's like more than 4x, 5x in 10 years. So like in Japan, but also Japanese ecosystem has really developed. But Europe is a bit, in a sense, a bit in advance. But if we compare to the US market, there's still more gap to be filled, hopefully. But interesting part of Europe is that this large amount of 50 million, the amount of the sustainability related investment has been like a 10% in the past years, but recently it grew up more than like at least like a 20% of all the tech investment come down to the sustainability areas, which is roughly 10 billion euro per year. 10 billion per year is invested in Europe. So this is kind of one unique area of Europe, and they are united in the sense that try to make a new regulations, new rules altogether to create a sustainability area as a business, as a Europe. And that's also one of the investment theses as a Nordic Ninja, and why we are also backed by many Japanese investors who are interested in how they can make a balance between the sustainability and the business altogether. Then this is another chart from McKinsey, and they identified like 8 roughly deep tech areas in Europe, which is more like a prominent. And I put some like logos of our portfolio companies that we are quite invested in many deep tech areas already. So of course, starting with like AI automation, future of computer and robotics and biotech, but also the noble energy is one of the key areas in Europe, and as well as maybe I believe it's also same problem in Japan, because Japan is quite dependent on the imported energy sources, but which could be changed, or which should be changed in terms of long-term sustainability of the economy and society. And we recently invested this co-power, and we also invited Patrick to the maybe to here then so that maybe he can talk about more like how co-power has been developing and how about his journey as an entrepreneur. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yep.
So the next is the model, and let us to.
Thanks a lot. Great to be here and see you also. I'm Patrick Mahler. I'm an engineer by training. So I actually started becoming a deep tech entrepreneur when I, from the beginning, studied at UC Berkeley, actually together with my old Japanese roommate, Murata-san over here. We've been hanging out since then. But this was about 25 years ago. And I started my first company in semiconductor manufacturing equipment based on an idea that I had when I studied in Berkeley. I came home to Sweden, where I'm from, and started the company there and ran that for some 10, 11 years. I guess I gained experience in raising capital and developing complex products and building international teams, etc., which is good to have. And then by accident, as it always is typically, got introduced to an inventor that had some unique ideas how to make wave energy possible. And then we started the company together in 2012. So I've now been doing wave energy for the last 12 years. And yeah, as you do as an entrepreneur, spending day, nights and weekends on that topic quite often. And on my side, on a spare time, you can say I'm also co-president of Ocean Energy Europe, the branch organization in Europe speaking for the sector, etc. So that's a bit about me, but I guess I can give you a little insight in wave energy and what we do in co-power, and just take that as an example of the kind of journey we've been doing so far. And then we can speak more about how these things can be done, what's easy and what's hard, and etc. So today, I guess co-power, it's possibly the global leader in wave energy technology. We've taken wave energy now to a point where it survives the big storms and where you can produce a large amount of energy compared to the size and the cost of the equipment that then makes it profitable. And investment-wise, we have raised close to 100 million euros today. We are today 90 people from, I think now 22 different countries was the latest one. So it's a very international team, and we are going definitely with a global view to wave energy. It's a huge opportunity that we are working to unlock. Wave energy possibly is the largest untapped source of clean energy. The opportunity is bigger than all the nuclear, bigger than all the hydro capacity of the world today. What really makes it interesting is this much more consistent power profile. So on the big oceans, such as the Pacific that we have with the waves coming in the Japanese east coast, you have had winds working over the oceans for several days in the history, and that is fetching up the wind energy into swell. And when that swell hits the coasts, it's a much more consistent flat power profile compared to wind and solar. And that is a key thing in order for the world to get to net zero, to be able to have clean electricity at all times, also when it's not windy and not sunny. We've started a company in Stockholm, Sweden. You can see on the map, if you know the region up there, the Baltics, it's not marked blue. So the blue places is where we see where there is good wave resource. Places you see guys wave surfing at. It's a good place to start to look for sites. Stockholm is not one of them, so we always had a global view on doing this. We don't have a home market, if you say, and I think that can be good sometimes to start with that objective. If we look at Japan, it's a quite interesting opportunity. So I've been here this week together with our friends in Nordic Ninja, and we've been visiting quite many industrial companies and other potential investors as well. And there's a huge opportunity to build wave farms actually in Japan. So we're happy also this week we signed a contract with one energy company in Japan to start designing one of the first farms here in Japanese waters. So yeah, we hope to be able to build a business here definitely in the coming years. But the profile that I talked about before, the big value, and when we are trying to convince our customers to invest into a new technology that is unknown with new risks, etc., the why is very much this picture. It's like the problem that you have with wind and solar is that it's goes up and down. Solar, we know the daily pattern of the sun. The wind is much more intermittent, and you can have a few days like here in October 27 in California where you didn't have that much wind. What's interesting with wave is that you could see in these 2 days the swell keeps pumping in. So the value of adding wave energy to the mix is that you can fill the gaps and create 100% renewable energy systems. And that is like the USP that we are selling to customers today. So in that sense, you can view the ocean as a huge storage unit, perhaps the biggest battery out there. And it can then take on a stabilizing role that fossil sources is having today. So really, we think wave energy can take a big role in phasing out fossil entirely out of the energy systems. And when you do add it to a mix of wind and solar, you can really reduce the cost of the clean energy mix. And that is what we're offering. The reason why you haven't seen a lot of wave energy devices out there commercially so far is that historically, wave devices, they've either broken in storms or they've become too large, heavy, and costly compared to the amount of electricity that they could produce. And then the economics hasn't worked. And we've introduced some important innovation to wave energy over the last 12 years that has drastically changed that picture. So this is our most recent, our first commercial scale machine, the CorePower C4. So it's a 9-meter diameter equipment that you're looking at here. It's about 130 tons of materials and 300 kilowatts of rating. And with this machine, if you compare it to historical wave devices, they have been typically in the sizes of 20 to a few hundred meters big and thousands of tons of material. So it's a factor 10 improvement in how much energy you can generate compared to the amount of equipment that you need to install in the ocean. And how have we been able to do that? Well, the key inventions that we have brought allows wave devices to be naturally protected in storm waves and survive. We've proven it up to 18.5 meter waves today. And the device is just sitting still, not reacting to storm waves. And then we have added advanced control technology that makes the devices oscillate in optimal timing with the incoming waves. And by combining those two things, we've been able to both survive the storms and then produce a large amount of power compared to the size of the equipment. So somewhere between 5 and usually 10 times as much as the competition or what's been possible in the past. And I think that's about the kind of improvement that has been needed in wave energy to actually make it a competitive technology. So that's something that we are at today. And here's a little video of the C4 producing power to the Portuguese grid in northern Portugal. This device is installed. So here you see it's about 1 meter wave, and you see how the machine is kind of jumping in and out of the water. And that's this magic, the phase control technology that we have added to these devices. And since we installed it, we have also had the opportunity to have some really big storms coming in. And as I mentioned, the biggest one, 18.5 meter. So the entire machine goes under the wave in the big storms. And we've proven it to work well in every single storm so far and been able to go back into power production. So we're not producing just in those hours when it's the most extreme waves coming, but then go back into power production again. So today you can say we have proven technology at commercial scale, a single device. And what we also worked on a lot over the last 3-4 years is industrializing the technology and preparing a massive ramp up to be able to supply thousands and thousands of these devices. So this is a picture from our machine hall in Stockholm. And here we've shown how we can integrate and build the drivetrain, what we call a power takeoff, that converts the motion into electricity inside the machine. Then we have selected like a contracted manufacturing partnership to scale up this manufacturing. So we only do prototypes and pre-series production in our own facilities, and we use contracted partners to ramp up the volume that keeps it reasonably asset light in that sense. And we've also invested in a large dry test facility where we're actually simulating the ocean with like a big IKEA share tester, for the ones who know that IKEA tests their shares a lot in that one, but a bit bigger. So this is 7.5 megawatts of capacity, so like 2 long-distance trains. And for us, this has been very important to be able to make a reliable technology that really is robust when you install it in the ocean. So we spent lots of efforts on really stabilizing, perfecting the technology before we bring something into the ocean. And this is obviously a quite big capital investment. It's also a big engineering effort to get a test system like that working. But for us, this has been key to success. Then we've been working a lot on the delivery model on how we're going to make these big composite hulls. This is from our port in Viana do Castelo in northern Portugal. And one key technology that we have had to develop over the years, which I think we realized probably halfway into the project, that it wasn't a good way to transport these huge 9-meter, 10-meter diameter spheres. You can't transport them on roads, etc. So we have developed our own automated additive technology that is weaving up these spheres with glass fiber. It's a composite sandwich technology. And today we have certified that process with like DNV, which is the offshore certification body. So the machine that we have today producing power has been manufactured in our own manufacturing cell. So in that sense, we have also now a method to deliver this technology at scale to our customers. So here you see the finished composite hull, and there we mounted the drivetrain inside of it, and you see the mooring system here in the foreground and a little bit of the top hat. And it's about logistics and doing the operations as well to convince customers in our case. So we've shown how you can use quite standard small port facilities, standard logistics to move it out and then offload the device into the water. And then we use one of these tugboats that you see there to tow it out. And we're trying to keep everything to small local ports, small vessels, so that we keep the cost of the operations down, but also enabling us to roll and scale this from lots of different existing facilities rather than being limited by infrastructure investments. And another, just mentioning, we have developed our own anchoring technology. That's also something we did not expect to have to do, but it ended up that we couldn't find a cost competitive anchoring solution on this in the market. So over the years, we have had to develop our own piling technology that we vibrate into the seabed using a big vibro hammer. And I guess today, this is one of the most effective solutions you can find to hold a device with vertical loads into the ground. So we think we are also finding new business cases for this anchoring technology. And that I find interesting with deep tech development sometimes, that you start in a direction, and when you go and really dig through the business plan, you find new things that just needs to be solved in order to make the business case work. And we believe we might be able to spin this out as a separate anchoring company over time. We already have spun out a gearbox technology company out of K-Power, which is today commercializing our gearboxes to other applications. So we are today 2 companies out of the wave energy. And just a video of how it's being installed in the ocean. You pull it down to this anchor, and then there's a quick connect solution, and you get it up, synchronize it to the grid, and then you can control it from your control center. So here you see it's being operated there from the control center. So yeah, this is just a bit visual to show what we're working on, a little bit the scale. Our product, then how do we package this to customers? We're offering our technology as core pack clusters of 10 to 30 megawatts. So with that, we're offering the wave energy converters, the mooring system, the anchoring, and the connectivity kit, so that we can lay this out side by side together with the customer and design large utility scale farms. And we're also offering them to do operations and maintenance contracts during the operation of the farm. So it's like a classical OEM business model where we supply turnkey kits, but then we're also getting revenues from engineering contracts with our customers where we design the farms, help them through the consenting, help them through the planning, then we help them with installations, and then we're offering them to operate and maintain the devices over the lifetime of the project. So you get recurring revenues. These kind of investors, they like recurring revenues often, not just a one-time sale with equipment. And today we have a number of commercial projects developed by energy companies in Ireland, in Scotland, in Portugal, and a few of the Canary Islands as well. So we've been very Europe-centered in the beginning, which is close to our home market. But we're glad now to actually see a first farm going through design next year in Japanese waters. So that's going to be exciting to see that happening as well. And we also see some developments on the US market as well, on the West Coast in the US. This one I wanted to spend a little bit of time on, because when you start a deep tech company like this and you have some good ideas, very little proof point, and you realize that, this is going to take something like 15 years perhaps to get to full industrialization and bankability of a new technology. It's going to cost at least 100 million euros or dollars. How do you go ahead and go and ask for investors and find an investor? It's really hard to come to someone to say, well, nobody in the world have succeeded doing wave energy so far, but trust me, this time it's going to work. You just give me 100 million in 15 years and it's going to be wonderful. And that is the challenge in the beginning, right? So what we've done is to really try to break it down in proof points and milestones on the way. And we decided, and for your different businesses, I believe a lot in complex technology that takes a long time to develop, to try to identify those critical performance cost parametrics or whatever parameters that you can measure in small scale in the beginning. In our case, we decided that the amount of energy that we could extract compared to the amount of tons of materials was a key factor for the cost efficiency. In the end, energy per force, energy per volume, I mean, metrics that you can actually physically measure in experiments and labs and prove that, yes, we are this much better compared to what has been in the past, I think can be very powerful, because frankly, you don't really know the cost in the beginning. You can't really prove what it's going to cost. The only thing you can prove is smaller scale prototype things, and then it's very important to be able to find the proxies or the measurements that will say that if we measure this, this, and this in our first 2 years of development, then it motivates ourselves to spend our own time in the next phase and ask for other people's money. So we've been very hard on ourselves in defining very measurable and very clear parameters and saying we're not going to proceed to the next step if we cannot prove that we are this 5 to 10 times better than what it really has been in the past. And that's been forcing us to rethink and find new methods along the way. I mentioned this anchoring technology, etc. Without that, we wouldn't get to the metrics that we needed. So we set out like 3-4 guys in the beginning. We did a lot of tank testing at universities, and I mentioned before, working in the labs in the universities is a great way to keep costs down in the beginning. We've done that a lot, and in the stage 2 we made a little bit bigger tank prototypes and still worked at the university with bench testing, and in stage 3 we got to a first integrated wave energy device, a half-scale machine that we installed in the Orkney Islands. And also in all the phases we've been working a lot with dry testing, so simulated hardware in the loop type of setups where you simulate the ocean in a machine hall in a controlled environment. And the first 2 phases, no, actually first 3 phases, we were able to lend some machine halls from the Royal Institute in Stockholm where we could do that, so reasonably low cost compared to if you do it commercially. Today we have much bigger facilities. We have 2 different machine halls. Yeah, you saw them before, and of course that requires a bit more capital, but it's really good to be able to stay capital light in the beginning, I think, by using university labs or collaborating with universities. But we've been able to then grow the size of the equipment, grow the size of the team, and grow the size of investments in stages due to having really solid proof points on the performance, the cost, the hydrodynamics, the survivability, etc. of this technology in each phase. And I do believe for complex deep tech projects that can be a very powerful methodology, and you can make people actually dare to invest in your next phase if you see, well, if I hit my milestones to stage 2, there's going to be a good increase in value, etc. Having that said, I don't think there's too many VCs like Shin who wants to invest in stage 1 anyhow. So what we did was that we applied for every research grant that we could find. We applied for every public support money. We were in every competition that you can possibly be. Takes a lot of efforts to do, but we actually did stage 1, 2, and 3 without inviting VCs to the company. So we were having some friends and family. There were a little bit of equity coming in, but it was almost entirely dominated by soft funding or non-dilutive funds from research grants, Swedish, European, UK, nowadays Portugal. So we built over the years in Coop our whole group that we call our project office, that is just vacuuming the market of every possible grant that we can apply to and finding every piece of money. But because it's hard, these projects never gets funded by like one big grant or one big investor. When we do our investment rounds, it's often 5 to 10 investors, and when we do grants, it's like 15 running in parallel often in order to make it work. So that takes a bit of effort to get that together. But in our case, it's been what's been required. So today we have completed stage 4 testing, and we are now in stage 5 where we're doing our first industrialized machines, and we are now looking to get the technology to full bankability and start scaling up production on that. So the latest investment round now we closed was the Series B of 32 million euros, where we had the pleasure to have Nordic Ninja as the lead investor, and we also started to bring in some more strategic investors. Cisco has invested for the case of 24 supply of clean electricity to data centers, and we have Santander being a big bank investing in typically wind and solar farms, and quite many others coming in. But I think it's a good thing to save the equity investors until as late as one possibly can. The more proof point we have, the more we can show of actual interest from customers and actual product proof before going to the investors, the stronger position you have in negotiations, of course. And it's both the strong position and it's not even realistic, I guess, in the beginning. And you also don't want investors, as Shin said at that time, because that's not the help necessarily that you need from the very beginning. If you have already a view, investors can, of course, help you with a view on the market if you don't really have that good understanding or can get it through hiring people in the team that have that. So I think that might be a little bit of what I would say here as an overview, and then we can talk more.
Yeah, we will use this panel discussion agenda to explore today's theme of today's lecture, to how to reach a global market or fundraising or something like that. So I will ask Nick Nisan to play a role as both facilitator and communicator.
Yes, I think we can start. I think we have some limited time, and I'd like to really secure some time for the Q&A, especially that Patrick has to leave in 20:30 sharp. The taxi is already ordered, booked, according to the AI, so hopefully it will come to the Yagoimon. But before that, but maybe just cover a couple of things. Maybe we can already combine the first 2 questions I prepared here. So, I think it's interesting that Sweden, actually, it's not a problem with Sweden at all. In a sense, Sweden have like a more Baltic Sea has a relatively flat. They have already a full access to the renewable energy as a country. So, why started web company from Sweden as an entrepreneur? It's a bit curious question, but
yeah, it's maybe not obvious, because I mean we don't have that big of a problem with renewable energy in Sweden, because we have a lot of hydro capacity and also some wind and solar, of course, as most people have. But I guess I've always been very attracted by hard challenges, and mainly because when the impact of solving them are big. I think it's extremely exciting to work with something that you know that if we succeed, it's going to have a huge impact on the world. And we found that wave energy really is one of those type of big quests that a lot of people have tried nobody has succeeded, but if you succeed, it can be really big. And I find that extremely inspiring, to be working on something that there is a big value when you solve it. But maybe also that actually it is hard, because there is a little bit of extra challenge in that.
Did you expect that this journey it's already 12 years and it could take more years? So did you expect, I think you started the company like you are around 30-ish, 30 year old, something plus. So do you expect that you have like a 20 year, almost like a 20 years as an entrepreneur?
I mean, this was my second deep tech. So the first one I already did some 11 years into. So I had then, unfortunately, learned the hard way already that this takes time. So I think we had a quite sober view when we started on that this is going to take likely more than 10, closer to 15 years before we can really sell something industrially. Sometimes maybe it's good to not entirely know that when you get started, because then maybe that would like scare you away from not starting. But I think it's also quite good, of course, to have that view. It has to be able to take some time.
Yeah, I think there's a challenge, something that you don't know entirely. Like there's a beauty of like not knowing everything. Maybe as an entrepreneur is an important aspect of the characteristics. But maybe coming to my next point is like maybe that about team. So you start, as you, and I don't know, it's selected by your co-founder or like you selected a co-founder altogether. But how you build the first team, and you already have like more than 90 people, the 22 nationalities. So how do you see the importance of the selecting the founders and the teams, and how has been developed, because they have experienced the different stages already from like small company to like 90 people.
Yeah, it's a really important point, and I think, I mean, this is a marriage that you do both with investors and primarily your team members, right? Unfortunately, I spend more time with my team members than my wife, so it's very important to choose right. It's probably the biggest success factor, that you find people that you both work well with, that you actually have fun with, but also complement each other. You shouldn't just be the same in a team. It's very important to have different views and pull in different directions. Of course, it's important to have different competences as well, perhaps. If you have somebody being the main science person, somebody being the product person, somebody knowing the customers and market very well, and so it's ideal. Sometimes it's not always like that. Sometimes you know each other and it's a good way of working, and that's fine. But it's good if you have also some different personalities. I would be looking for, you know, somebody who will always push on and believe in everything and is quite optimistic, but also then being balanced by somebody who's like, yeah, wait, is this really going to work? Is this a sound way to go forward? So, you know, one is pulling the throttle and one is pulling the brake a little bit, and yeah, stuff like that. It's good to complement.
Thank you. So maybe a bit on this theme that as an investor, I believe it is very important to choose the right founder team, like co-founders, that which the investor can believe that they can attract capital and also talent. And how have you developed your like a corporate culture? Because as you said, like hardware, the deep tech journeys are long, and it's not always like easy going, obviously. And there's so many challenges, difficult moments, especially around fundraising and development team. So how do you keep the positive momentum in the team, and what kind of key hints maybe for the younger entrepreneurs who could maybe learn from your journey?
Yeah, it's possibly one of the hardest thing, because it's easy to be excited for some time. It's really hard to get a group of people excited for 15 years or 10 years. And as Shin, as you're saying, it's mainly problems along the way. There's a few happy days, but if you count the percentage of happy days versus tough days, it's almost only tough days. And just when you think you're going in a good direction, there's always some new shit being thrown at you from the side that you could never guess would become a problem. So in those situations, I believe that the why, of course, like a very clear vision of why we're doing this, and also talking about it, making it clear that yes, it is going to be hard. Yes, there is going to be a lot of problems on the way, but keeping that long-term vision of look at the effect of the world that we're doing when we succeed with this. And of course, maybe looking at some other examples of almost impossible projects that have actually succeeded. It's important to believe, of course, that it can succeed despite everything seeming to go completely south from time to time.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also as being a co-founder a long time ago, also being like a kind of the fund manager and a founder of the venture capital, I just say like if you have a few good days a year, it's not too bad. And most of the time it's not shit, but there's a lot of things goes not we hoped, like not we planned. But there's some moments which we really can share, like some success, the portfolio companies, some like successful exit, hopefully. But there's more like a success we can share, and we can like really encourage and also enjoy as a whole team. But maybe go to the next topic is like the other side of mistakes. Of course, we make so many mistakes as a founder, even a fund manager. Yes, I did many mistakes, and I can disclose my mistake as a co-founder. So we screwed a bit on the cap table simulation in the beginning, and we could have had a better cap table so that we can more incentive as people. We can maybe attract a good CEO from the beginning. So we failed, and maybe that is my biggest learning as a being co-founder and becoming a. After that, I became more investor side, but I try to be really cautious about cap table, but not necessarily on the cap table thing. But what kind of mistakes have you heard in the past? Maybe is there anything you can recommend that new entrepreneurs can avoid, but some mistakes has to be taken because for the learning as entrepreneur.
Yeah, there is of course a lot. So I'm just trying to figure out which are the most important. But I mean, in my previous company, probably I got some investors in that were a bit too strong in their own opinions about some things and thought that they knew our business and pushed us into some directions that in the end were not healthy. We kind of felt that was happening, but since we had invited them, it was hard to completely control that. So choosing the right investor, it is very important. We might talk more about that, but I think I've done some mistakes on that in my previous life, and that makes you more cautious for the second time. Another one of those, which is adjacent to that, I guess, it's to have the same incentives with investors, of not letting investors have too many preference rights or different agendas in the beginning. When you get to the later stage rounds, now we did it in the B round, we have actually some preference shares for the first time. But we've been almost like religious about saying, no, everybody have the same shares, everybody have the same rights and the same responsibilities. And if it goes well, it goes equally well for everybody, etc. But then at some point we had to give up that a little bit. But I think I was also penalized a little bit by that in my previous company. So I'm quite sensitive on that topic, I should say. And another one maybe is hiring the team and building the team. It's easy to be optimistic when meeting people because you really want the person in front of you, the candidate, to be the right one. So at least me, I'm a positive, optimistic person in by heart. And quite often in the beginning I was too optimistic about, like it's going to be working out fine. This seems to be a really, really smart guy or girl. But when there is a gut feel that, this is not exactly good, if there's the smallest feeling of when you're interviewing and building a team, then there is something. You should be really picky. I haven't been picky enough in the beginning of building the team. If you have just the slightest feeling in your gut that there is something that is not right, then it is not right. That's what I learned.
I concur. And also regarding this onboarding the right investors at writing is also important. I think there's also a question in advance that are talking about like a hands-on support from a VC. Very honestly, I don't believe that. Most of the times, the founders know always better than the market, customers, on the organizations. Of course, as an investor, sometimes we take quite actively like a board seat, board observer, but we know that we are on the passenger side, not on the driver seat, because we cannot drive the company, we cannot drive the organization. It is a founder's job, like a founder's things. Then, of course, we can say like, hey, maybe this is not right direction, maybe it's better, but we don't like to go, hey, you have to right turn like now, you have to brake like now. No, this is not the thing the investor should do. At least that's our belief as a Ninja, because we are the majority of our team members also like our operator, like ex-previous founders. So we know that how investor can sometimes, even though useless advice is not bad, maybe sometimes they really jeopardize all the processes. So it's really important to select the right investors. And I think the Creandum, some like a European top tier VC, did a research on how you select your VC, or like how the VC select the founders. But it's actually like really a partnership. It's more like a relationship. Comes more than like other terms like variation, like other like financial terms. Most important thing is a relationship, or like how you can trust each other because they are different roles. But it's kind of it's not a marriage, but we have to be comfortable that if we receive a call like at midnight, even like a weekend, there's some moment they have to take always a call from the founders. They say hi. Then they try to, if there's a problem from the founders, I like to help, I like to support. But if there's no problem, fine, absolutely, then you do whatever you like to do.
Yeah, I think that's a sound view, and it's like you can need the support, you can need somebody to speak to and just air your ideas and have a sparring partner, but you don't. It's almost unhuman if the investor would come in and just understand how to do things in the few hours you come into the company. You would be so much smarter than all the guys working in the company, obviously, in order to be able to know that. So, because you tend to get good at stuff you do all the time, right? Yeah, I think it's fair what you're saying, but it's good with a helicopter perspective on just having the overview, and then of course, coaching and supporting on the more strategic ones. I think it's very helpful with this kind of good. And we must say we think that Nordic Ninja is a very, very supportive investor so far.
The one thing investor can tell is like we are more exposed to like a capital markets in a sense, like a private market, or like also the listed like a public market. So in a sense, we can give a feedback for you, the founders, to raise the next funding. What could be the things you have to do for the couple of years? Maybe that things, maybe we are more daily, quite frequently exchange opinions among the VCs. Also, we have a feedback from our like a backing limited partner, like invest out of funds. That in this sense, we are more exposed to like more like a capital market style. That is maybe only the one thing you can take the advice from the investors, especially like a VCs like us. Okay, so I think we are already the time limited, so maybe we can skip or some like a challenge going forward. But is there any questions from the audience? Otherwise, we can continue. But yeah, if there's any like a direct question, especially for the Patrick, yeah, that has to be taken the time now.
Thank you for your presentation. And I have question to the Patrick-san. So I'm very surprised that your company did not raise funds from VCs until stage 3. So I'm wondering that until stage 3, so did you earn money by, for example, doing some consulting services or developing some products for other companies?
No, it was almost entirely funded by research grants.
Okay.
And we were able to combine, in our case, European research grants with some Swedish ones, with some British ones, etc. And we just were laying a canvas of different research grants that slightly overlapped until we could cover all the costs with that.
Okay. Thank you. So I think it is very easy to earn money from like doing consulting services, but
if you're building a consultant business, that might be a good idea. If you're building a product business, every hour you spend on consultancy might just be a lost hour on the product, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I don't think that is a good funding source usually. Better to focus on the actual business model.
Okay.
By the stage, but have you raised from angels or entirely not at all?
Yeah, there were some angels coming in, and some friends and family of especially close to our first inventor that put a few $100K in. So there was a little bit. I shouldn't say that, and sometimes you need that as well. So the advice is more overall. I think how much did we raise in the first 3 stages? Something like 7 or 8 million euros. We were able to do on research funds almost entirely.
Thank you.
maybe this is one of the differences with Japan and Europe. In a sense, we don't invest in Japan, so maybe I cannot compare. But as far as I heard, there's a more like a grants on the deep tech side. There's a Europe has a more like different sources, like country level, like EU level. So that is one thing. Also, there's more like a business angels who can dare to take like early stage risks, and it's more like organized as far as I understand. There's like a more like official association. I think recently I heard also Japan. There's a few official angel associations popping up here. So maybe it's catching up.
Thank you for your presentation today. Firstly, for a long time, I'm worrying about the definition of deep tech. I have no idea before coming today, but you gave me one definition. So you mentioned about the theme of deep tech is no one succeed in that theme. So this is one hint for my idea about deep tech. So I think this is my appreciation for you. My question is, in your first stage, you had to persuade the investors to participate in your technology or your company. So in your early stage, I think it is very difficult to communicate with the people outside of your company because your technology is very unique and a lot of people is strange to your technologies. So what is the most difficult point to explain about your sophisticated and deep technologies? And in my opinion, if you have to deceive to the investor just in case. So I want to know that. So this is what is a difficult point and how you overcome that situations.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be able to communicate simply with investors and be trying to be super clear and without making it complicated. At the same time, you got to be very clear on why is it unique. And in order to be clear on why it is unique, what problem you're actually solving, because good investors want to understand it, then you have to be able to, maybe you use some animations or maybe you use like video material and so that can kind of depict complicated things into simple. It could be different, but today we work a lot with visual material like videos and so, as I shown, much more powerful obviously than trying to explain it. When you don't have a device yet, it's hard to make a video out of it. So animations can be powerful sometimes.
Yeah, first you demonstrate on the ground or laboratory, not on the sea surface. So it is a little difficult to persuade to the investors. So how your technology realize the good big achievement or efficiency. So this is just I want to know that thing. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. In our case, we went to the science side, so we've been relying very heavily on the academic research in the field, and there has been then very clear scaling rules explaining, like, if you can measure this performance on a scale buoy being this size, it means that a full-scale buoy in the ocean will have exactly this performance. So it's important to have some, like, verified way to, I guess, extrapolate from the small-scale experiment onto the full-scale commercial scale that people actually believe in. And it better be right, of course, as well, right?
Yeah, okay. How designs the minimum viable
sorry,
product?
there's one more question, maybe,
Okay.
but can I also comment? Because you don't have to persuade every single investor. Sometimes they don't understand. They just go to the next. Because we are lucky that Tomosaka, who is a partner, also who is a board member of the company, I said, who is a background is more energy side, who really understand why this best energy is so important in the market. But sometimes people just like don't understand. But there's often the case that then you maybe in 5 minutes after explanation, of course you can tell that, oh, this investor doesn't understand things. Okay, fine, this happens, okay, go next. So sometimes you have to maybe prioritize the time altogether, both sides. But sorry,
trying to sell to investors who don't get it, who you don't get through, it's not winning. It's better to go to the next. I agree.
Maybe I think that there's one more.
So I'm working on a national health insurance project, which is a public sector, the same as your energy sector in terms of public. So as you pointed out in the pitch session, the public sector is slow in the beginning. So what made you boost the deal with co-power, whereas it is public sector? From Nikuni-san, maybe.
I think there's quite so many aspects, but yeah, I believe so. As long as you do the right things, there's some moment that maybe there's a timing that the market economics just work. Then you have to figure out the right timing. Sometimes you might be too early, maybe not too late, but it's hard to generalize everything. But yeah, but there's always a people in the public sector, even in general it is super slow, but there's some people who can really try to accelerate things. You really have to find the right person. But to do so, I think basically you need some number of the meetings, a lot of people. But maybe we can continue a bit later. Sorry, I think that we are really running out of time.
I'll keep on hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good to see you. And yeah, what can be my last message? Keep pushing and believe in your ideas, and try to find those measurable things that you can actually prove things with early on, and try to convince others based on facts, on measurable things. I think that's in deep tech quite a powerful one. And yeah, wonderful to see all research and very interesting projects presented as well. Good luck with that, and make sure to push it all the way. Don't give up on the way.
Thank you, Patrick. The persistence, I will just emphasize, because you will receive a lot of no from the investors, customers, but you have to carry on and go to find the right partners. It takes time sometimes, but yeah, as long as you believe what you're doing, time will come and you will be succeeding. And just give me some final say. Just wanted to give a thank you to Patrick. I just bought some like a small souvenir. There was this web thing. It is quite famous Japanese in caricature. But thank you, Patrick, for coming all the way from Sweden. Thank you so much.